see you and you see him.
I don't normally have to do it. I need to get him. Good evening, listeners. This is Bless Radio, and it's Tuesday evening, just past 6 p.m. UK time. This is a spiritual discussion program. I'm Saad in Southeast London, and with me as usual is Gregory. Gregory, how are you, and how is the weather where you are?
Morning is fine. It is dark and cold.
Dark and cold, okay. Here in London, we've had rain, lightning, and cold. Well, it's dark, of course it is now. So we've had a variety of things happening like that. But it seems calm now. So welcome, listeners, to the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge, excuse me, in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic for tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. I'll just repeat that. The modern way of living and the law of movement. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail message? The Grail message in the light of truth by Abrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic we are discussing tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. And if you have any questions or comments in regards to this topic, you can contact us on our UK number. It is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as you know, I like to always look at the meaning of the words in our topic. It's quite a long topic title tonight. Just to remind again, the topic tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. So the first word there is modern. And in the dictionary, I found this meaning. Modern, it says, relating to the present or recent times, as opposed to the remote past. And the example they give is the pace of modern life. So, Gregory, is that good for our definition? Is that definition good for our discussion?
It is very usable.
Good. Okay, that's nice, because many times you don't seem to think the meaning is sufficient for us, but today is good. That's good. Now, the next word there is way. So the modern way. So the word way, the meaning there, I've got 2 meanings given in the dictionary. First one, a method, style, or manner of doing something. There's something a little bit more, but let's just look at that first. So a method, style, or manner of doing something. Is that helpful for our discussion, Gregory?
All the 3 nouns you used seem to be near to it, but manner seemed to me nearest. The manner, which is the way.
Okay. And another word they give as part of that definition, which I didn't read out, it says an optional or alternative form of action. So, you can say you can go from A to B, you can go through route 1. I'm giving my example now, this route way, or you can go to a route 2, which is slightly, zigzaggy, let's say. So that is an alternative way. That's what I can see. But they're talking about alternative or optional form of action. What do you say to that, Gregory?
What you said, alternative way, and that means it's already describing way. So the first one is the first set is most nearest to it. This is only describing the first one.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I didn't want to say it in one go because I just felt it might lose our understanding. So then there's another meaning given for the word way in the dictionary, and it says a road, track, or path for traveling along. It sounds a bit very literal or physical, Gregory. So is that sufficient for our discussion?
These are descriptions which enhance the first set you mentioned.
Right. Okay. I will continue with the next key word in the topic. Just again, I will remind people for the topic. It is the modern way of living and the law of movement. So living. Living, they give us two meanings in the dictionary. And the first one is an income sufficient to live on or the means of earning it. So what do you say about this one, Gregory?
That's a description which doesn't really doesn't give a definition of living.
Yes, I think the living meaning the income. That's exactly what they've said. Use the word income, so it's people use it that way. So I think it's not so relevant for our purposes. It may come in a little bit, but it's not directly relevant in terms of our spiritual discussion. So, but we will continue. The other meaning given is for living, the meaning of living, the pursuit of a lifestyle of the specified type. And they give one example there. The benefits of country living. So it's just to repeat that the pursuit of a lifestyle of the specified type. What do you say to that, there, Gregory?
These are descriptions. They haven't really talked about what living is.
Okay. Would you like to say something to give a better meaning there?
One was expecting to hear the word existence or conscious existence. But there was nothing about existence.
Yes.
Or living consciously or recognizable existence, something of that nature, which is nearer to the spiritual rather than just qualifying what living is.
Yes. Thank you for that, Gregory. Right. Now, the next word for, again, the topic is law. And they give us, okay, I've just got the one meaning here. The system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. And the example they give here, shooting the birds is against the law. So let me repeat that. This is the meaning of the word law. The system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members, and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. Gregory, what do you say on that?
I mean, very clearly, this is only describing social cohesion where you have people living. And so this is more of a description. The law itself, which is more of a rule, which must have sprung from nature or from creation, and the ones that humans' personalities put in place, where you have a gathering, that's the one you're just mentioning.
Yes.
So what we are considering is that which is unshakable.
Unshakable. Okay. So the laws which are unshakable. Yeah. Rules. I just am writing this down so I can have it in front of me as well. I have a feeling there was a further meaning, but unfortunately I didn't copy it onto here, so I'm not able to read that out. But I think we have an idea now. The next word is movement. And again, in the dictionary, it gives me two meanings. Movement, an act of moving, like a slight movement of the body. So that's not really telling us it's just moving, an act of moving. That's so. But I guess we sort of know movement quite well. Yeah, I don't know if I should ask you to say anything on that act of moving. It seems like not sufficient in its.
Well, something which is all embracing is motion.
Motion. Yes, yes. Motion. Yes. Okay, that's good. So we'll say just motion there. Um, there's a further meaning, Gregory, in the dictionary for the movement. It says a change or development. And they give example, the movement towards greater sexual equality. So is that relevant for us, a change or development?
It is also helpful because it's qualifying what type of motion we have or what type of movement.
Right. Okay. Now, just to repeat the topic again, it's a mouthful for tonight, listeners, so I'm just going to repeat it. The topic we're discussing tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. So I think I'm going to break it into two parts to start with, and then we can merge the two. So the modern way of living. I mean, the first thing that came into my mind, and by the way, I just remembered one thing I forgot to mention of another option for you listeners to interact with us with their questions or comments. On our Bless Radio website, Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com, you can contact us also through the chat box. So if you go to that Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com website, if you scroll down the homepage, you'll come across a chat box, Bless Chat it's called. You can contact us through there as well. Now, going back to these questions. So as I was saying, the modern way of life, well, first thing that comes in my mind is technology. We have mobiles, computers, even, of course, now artificial intelligence is coming in the news a lot. But what's happened with these technologies is that we've come used to them, obviously, and it seems we are even dependent on them, totally dependent even, and even in some things we are even addicted to these technologies. So my first question, Gregory, is about technologies. Is it good to use technology?
Well, that prompts a counter question. Is it not good to use technologies? Technologies such as your...
I'm sorry, Greg, can you just repeat? I didn't hear you there.
So that prompts a counter question, which is it not good to use technologies? That means instead of using mobile phones, we have people who carry news from one place to the other. That means in discussions like we have now, we're supposed to pass our discussion through a house, a crier who will now pass it to another person before it gets to London and gets to your place. And so the question, the answer is there on its own. There must be motion. There must be movement. And as time progresses and the forces of nature are realized and the potentials, you make use of it, of what nature offers, all right, to enable you to achieve your aim. So technology is good. The only challenge is how do you use it?
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer. I can see that because technology is just a tool for us to implement, whatever we need to do. So in itself, it's neutral. It's not good or bad as such. It can be used for good or bad, whatever way a human being wants to choose to use it. But really, it is useful because it makes life, well, we're talking about modern way of life, so it makes things easier to live life, But now let's explore more about, how the technology is used, because is how you use something that, makes a difference, you can say. So let's look at that, Gregory. In fact, let's pick some example. I think that's the easiest way to sort of explore something. So the reason I asked initially whether it's good or bad is because, for example, when we use, let's say, I'm going to use the example of sat-nav, which we use in the car from going to A to B. Now, it's very useful because, you don't need to look in a map, and it even talks to you as you're driving, and if you make a mistake, it, corrects it just gives you the route again, puts you back on the right route. But the problem, well, not a problem, I just sometimes think, Gregory, that people become sort of lazy and totally dependent on this sat-nav, meaning that if something went wrong with the sat-nav, you now would have to, let's say, find, how can I say, I give an example like this, that when I was younger, when there was, before that was not, when there was no sat-nav available, and my dad, let's say, was driving, and I just used to observe him, how he was going from A to B, and I learned the routes in my own memory, how he was, just watching him. And then when I started to drive, I just remembered those routes, and I just knew how to go from, let's say, South London to North London a particular way, and I knew them inside out. And then, of course, sometimes you have jams and whatnot, but even then I had a rough idea where I needed to go. And only when you get close to your destination, you need to look on the map to get an answer. But in this sat-nav now, people are not having any memory. They might have been going on that route many times using the sat-nav, but if they now didn't have suddenly the sat-nav, they would just not really have a clue from their memory. They would lose any memory of what they have done to get from A to B, because they become so dependent on the technology. So that's one example I wanted to look at there, Gregory. Does it make you lazy with this technology, that you become so dependent that you don't use your abilities anymore, like memory, So is there some, there's some advantage and there seems to be some disadvantage. And I'm wondering if the disadvantage has quite a detrimental effect. I didn't give any worst case example of that, but I'm just wondering. So is there some, Gregory, where you become dependent and you no longer, are able to use your abilities like memory or such things? So that's what I'm asking about technologies in this example here. Does it make you dependent?
Thanks for this particular question. And one should give a scenario. In the past, we used to ride horses. Therefore, we had to feed the horses with maybe hay and some grass somewhere. We needed to treat the horses. Then subsequently, we had bicycles. In bicycles, we had to do all sort of pedaling and push forward. And subsequently, we started having cars. But in some cases, we used to go on foot from one place to the other. The question I would ask myself or any person, what benefit does one have when it comes to driving from one place to the other? In the past, if you wanted to go from London to, say, Birmingham, in the past, some people had to go on foot. Some people ride horses. Subsequently, some people started using bicycles before they started using cars or they started using the train. The question would be, does using the car or using the train make us lazy? Because the advent of the motor car or of the train is that of technology. And the simple answer is no. With technology, things are simplified. If, however, instead of using it reasonably to enhance our activities, we can be too dependent on it, and in that case, it does not enhance our activity, it makes us lazy. For in the first case, you have to listen. You have to pay attention to the paths which are shown to you. So one would not say at all that technology makes one lazy, but it depends on how you yourself utilize this technology. That's what makes the difference. There are some who use it so that it will grant them more time for other things. And there are some who use it in such a way that they become so dependent that they can't even think. So it depends on how the personality uses the technology. So one cannot blame the technology itself for the human personality making decisions.
Thanks, Gregory, again for this answer. Yes, it's no, how can I say, no matter how much I may try to blame the technology, or let's say potentially to blame it, in the end it's the user that is the one to look at, not the technology itself. So because somebody is using the technology, and how they use the technology is, how can I say, is what really counts. Because some technology are better than others. So, and you just have to know the limitations and accept that that's a limitation. Of course, you can improve on it, but at the end of the day, it's how you use it that matters. So thank you for bringing that out, Gregory. Now, yeah, I'm going to ask this right in this one as well. So, yeah, the social media, that's another aspect of modern life that especially young people, well, I won't say only young, pretty much quite a number of people are using it. And let's say they're spending a long time on it, like becoming addicted. And my question there, Gregory, is, well, it's a similar question, really. Is that addiction, and when I say addiction, that is taking their time, a lot of time, which in the past they would be, let's say, going out with the technology, they can stay indoors and do things from indoors. And in the past, they would go out, like say shopping, they would actually physically go shopping to the shop, or even they would go into nature and other things. So it's a bit like dependence. Well, I suppose addiction is like a dependence. So my question there, Gregory, is there something addictive about this modern technology? That's what we are saying, modern way of living. Is there something happening with the modern way technology that is making us, how can I say, although it opens many doors to see many different things, but somehow it makes you so time consuming, with having, let's say, negative impacts on health and sleep and so on. So is there some loss of balance going on, Gregory, with you could say this technology?
Technology itself is neutral. It's how we use this that either grants us the benefit or not. So one cannot turn around to blame technology, because the personality makes a decision on what it wishes to do. So you find that in the past, look at the sort of phones we used to use. And currently, we're using Skype. Do we prefer to be speaking on phone directly? Or do we prefer to use our computer systems to communicate? Technology sort of enhances what is there. Therefore, it is how you use this that could bring benefits or not give any benefit. There must be a balance, anyway, in all that we do. So instead of blaming the technology, we should blame the personality for not being strong enough to find out what a balance is. That there is a tool which can enhance our productivity. We cannot now turn around and blame the tool and say we are so dependent on the tool. Just as many we now say, oh, it's because we have a car, or because we have to fly from one country to another. We might as well go and take camel and decide to ride from one continent to another. And when you get to the sea, you look for a canoe, and then you start paddling the canoe, because it will strengthen your muscles. So, as with everything, it depends on who is using it and how that personality is using it. That is the key in these matters, not the technology itself, because it's neutral. If we ignore the technology, it will still be there.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this good clarification and answer you've given there. I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. I'll repeat that, the modern way of living and the law of movement. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we have another method you can contact us, which is go to the Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com website where we are broadcasting. And if you scroll down from on the homepage, you will see a chat box called Bless Chat. And you can contact us in that Bless Chat box. And we are broadcasting on, as I mentioned already, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. And you can also listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, or Zeno, ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I'm going to do a bit of mix and match. Let's go now to the law of movement. Now, I want to sort of bring it into a context. So we know, let's say from nature, there's a cycle. The Earth, there's a day and night, 24-hour cycle there. Earth goes around the sun, that's 1 year. And then from that, we know we have the 4 seasons. So there's a cycle there, a cycle of, well, I'm calling the law of movement as a cycle. There's a movement going on, but in a way, the cycle, I guess, when we say in terms of law, there is some process where it's obeying rules or laws. That's what we mean when we're saying a cycle is there. So there's always a cycle with regards to that movement, at least. So that's, and in nature, with the harvest, we talked about the seasons, and that goes with the planting and seeds, and eventually they bear fruit, and the fruits come out and they have seeds in them, and they restart the cycle there. So there's a cycle there, which is, you can say, a law of movement going on. And then we think about, let's say, animals and human beings and plants. In all of these three, we see one law. You can say there's a reproduction, that continues their cycle, if I can say that way. So yes, it's not the same human beings being reborn, or animals or plants, but they continue to exist. So that's one thing there. And then we know from science, we talked about the motion. So there's this laws of motion from Newton that we are aware. So that's a law, Newton's law of motion. That's how we describe them. And we're talking about modern way of life. So we are saying there are some law, some connection between this law of movement, or at least let's say there's some impression being given that there's some connection between movement and way of life. So, but we're talking here, Gregory, about modern way of life. So somehow there's again an implication that the modern way of life may not be the same as the previous past way of life. I mean, not in the sense of the cycle of reproduction and nature that we already described, but some way other differences. So I'm talking very generally right now, just to set a context here, so we can go and explore it further. So, Gregory, is there anything you want to say on what I've just said there to bring up, make the context clearer, or are we talking, let's say, earthly life? It sounds silly because we know that these laws go beyond. When you talk about nature, it goes beyond Earth. So, can you say, is there anything further you'd like to add to give a context, clearer context for our discussion?
Well, thanks for this question. Again and again, there have been discussions, particularly in this forum, that if one observes nature, of which the human personality is a part, externally, because he or she has the five senses. If one observes vegetation, if one observes our thoughts, if one observes our movements or our intuition, one comes to that conclusion that there is an observation that one may now say it constitutes into a law, ubiquitous, and that is motion. So all that one classifies as movement, as vibration, all these fall under the type which one will categorize as motion. And that motion is a law in creation. Only through motion are we able to have our discussion. Otherwise, if there were no motion, there would be no discussion. For motion is ubiquitous. That means all that exists is in motion. So that in itself is a fact. But it's necessary for the human personality to examine further. That means, is it possible to have something that is not in motion? Because even when you're talking of a stone, the particles that make up the stone, they're in motion. So when one considers all these things, even we ourselves, in our thinking, it's also in motion. So this becomes a fact, which fact cannot be reduced, so it's irreducible. A further step is to consider that motion, they are only of two kinds. That motion in which the end of the motion flows back to the beginning. That is what many call vibration, which again is motion. And the other part of it is that in which the end of the motion does not flow back to the beginning. These are very, very clear that all motions fall into these two categories, these two types. That in which the end flows back to the beginning, that is more like a reciprocal activity. So, one of the arms in which that motion, the end, flows back to the beginning, one of the arms, is that of reciprocal activity. So all that exists, all that consists of radiation, all these, be it our thoughts, be it our intuition, be it what we see out there in nature, all these must exhibit that feature, that quality or that feature. So in that case, one will say there is a reciprocal activity, which in itself is a law, as long as we have categorized that motion is a law in creation. The other arm which one may consider, in which the end flows back to the beginning, is more of that of an attraction. Were it not so, the end will not flow back to the beginning. And for that attraction to manifest, that attraction may also, as an arm, be called that of the attraction of homogeneity. This is what basically is referred to as the attraction of homogeneous species. So from that in which one has, from that type in which the end flows back to the beginning, we have a reciprocal action, a reciprocal activity, and at the same time, the attraction of homogeneity coming together. Otherwise, it will not come together. So these are laws, and they are so ubiquitous. They are so simple because they swing unconditionally in motion. That being the case, one can also consider the other part in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. Some may call it movement. But again, that should become very clear that if one is to reflect very deeply, it is connected, it is synonymous to the scenario in which one thing is heavier than the other. And that only has arisen from densification. Again, the picture, the intuitive picture which you pick from here is that of gravitation. But it should not be taken for granted. It is expected that each personality, each listener, must examine these things very rigorously to attain inner clarity. And in examining the discussions like this, the walk in the light of truth is a faithful helper. That means there is the need not only to examine and weigh what happens in nature, within ourselves, but also the need to look at the walk in the light of truth, to examine what light is, at the same time what truth is, and how it applies to activities in nature of which we are a part. How light and truth applies to our deeds, which are activities, applies to our thoughts, which are also activities. Although we cannot hold our thoughts in our hands, we can't even see anything. But we are convinced that we have thoughts. So these are the things that the human personality must do in order to gain personal conviction. That means all errors will completely be eliminated. Once we now know, or we are now convinced that motion is a law in creation, so also is movement. That means there must be continuous movement. And as motion is a law in creation, what has arisen from this are that of reciprocal activities and also the law of attraction of homogeneity. How these things dovetail can also be verified through intrinsic investigation. So with this background, it becomes very clear that even all our activities, be it breathing, be it what we eat, be it our thoughts, all these are subjected to motion or movement. And therefore, even the so-called modern technology, which basically is taking that which exists, examining it in the terms of having reciprocal activities, which is vibrations, and how we can tweak this to the benefits of further activities. That is what is happening. So the human personality must examine. That means must exert itself using its faculty in motion, in movement, and in the so-called sciences.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for your picture that you've painted there. What's clear is that there is the law of movement, and everything has to align with it, or that principle has to be seen in every activity, human or non-human. Human, of course, is our sphere, and then there's the other sphere, which let's say nature, animals, although we are saying we are part of nature, but somehow we are a bit different in the sense the others in nature seem to adhere to nature's laws more, how can I say, without much trouble. But us humans seem to have our own will, you can say, or whether we follow or not follow, you know. So, Gregory, let's ask this question. Why is it that other beings or creatures, since we are supposed to be all part of nature, humans and plants and animals, beings, if you can call such other beings, how is it that the humans seem to, let's say, cause trouble in following these laws of nature or the law of movement? We don't seem to be able to produce things which harmonize, like we said before, example was plastics. We can create plastic or make foam plastics, but it's not very recyclable or decomposable or There's a lot of pollution risk and so on. Not only risk, we have done it. We've actually caused trouble with it. And now, and even living with the environment, we are saying we are causing the, well, it was the past we would call those, I've forgotten the name of the gases, but, we are causing this pollution and we are causing the imbalance in the world. So somehow, Gregory, so my question really is, what's happened with the human being that they can't cooperate with the laws, natural laws or the laws of movement, whilst the nature and other beings don't have, are able to, align with it. And then, yes, what's the difference between us humans and the other beings and plants and so on that we can't seem to fit in with these laws?
Basically, one can easily observe that the category which is referred to as plants or animals other than man, that category, those types, do not have a free will to decide. The plants are stationary. The animals other than man are not stationary. They may move from one place to the other, but their inner core is different. Their inner core is different because it's that of spirit. So there is a limit. You cannot hold a horse responsible. Say, okay, the horse, as it's moving, is eating or throwing up things here and there. You do not hold the horse responsible. Or a bird is flying and at the same time drops some things along the line. You don't hold it responsible, but you will hold a human being responsible. So that is where responsibility comes in that scenario where the personality is able or is free to make a decision. Because the human spirit has the free will to make free decisions, it is held responsible. Therein lies responsibility, And therefore, in that case, it is expected that before someone makes a decision in which responsibility sets in, he or she must reflect carefully how that decision is likely to affect him or, him in the first case, and then the general public. Because just as he himself is striving to become conscious and wish to make things better for himself, so also are others who, like him, are striving to make things better for themselves. So things should happen in such a way such that both parties will not come to harm. Not only fellow human personalities, but the case you cited, creating plastic. The human personality is very quick to find a solution to something, but does not reflect on the long-term effects. Only later will it start reflecting, oh, I never thought about this. But the trend is changing. So the answer to your question is that the human personality has free will to decide. And in having that free will to decide, it does not reflect over time how his or her decision is likely to affect the environment and those in the same environment. That has always been the problem. Because if it has done otherwise, that means in his reflection, he decides, oh, this is going to affect us adversely and it's going to have an impact on me. He himself will not do it. Hello?
Apologies, Gregory. I was speaking and I didn't even notice I was on mute. So apologies, listeners. Um, I didn't notice the silence. So yes, listeners, you're listening to Blessed Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushing. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. The modern way of living and the law of movement. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's another way you can contact us, which is from the website that we are broadcasting, which is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you go onto the homepage and scroll down, you'll see a chat box called Bless Chat. And on that, you can contact us with any questions or comments. And we are all, so I said we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space live stream. That's to listen to the live show, which is of course on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And you can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, Grail, message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is modern way of living and the law of movement. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/plus radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, in the last question, we looked at, the difference between humans, animals, and plants. And you pointed out that the humans have free will, which allows them to, go one way or another way. And which can be, as I was saying earlier, can be constructive or destructive. And animals and plants do not have this free will, so they just follow nature, you could say, automatically. They don't. And then you wonder, Gregory, why is there such a creature like us human beings being given free will when he can go astray? Of course, he doesn't have to go astray, he or she, but there's a potential for it. And, we just gave an example of the plastics where we have abused the environment. And that's just one example. And we have many, many more. That's just, you could say, on the environmental side. Then there's, our action between the human beings themselves, conquering human beings, dominating, turning them into slaves, basically abuse and violence. There's also, of course, examples of good things too. Just somehow the bad things seem to be having the, I don't know if I could say majority, but it seems to have the, how can I say, terrible effects that are really concerning. And one wonders, as long as human beings have free will, there's always going to be some human beings who are going to cause trouble, or deliberately or not deliberately, and there's others who want the peace and want to live in peace. So my question there, Gregory, is looking at this law of movement, which human beings and everything should align with. But somehow, with the human free will, it's not guaranteed that they will follow that law of movement. So, Gregory, and as I say, some will and some will not. And so my question there is, Gregory, can there be some guarantee, Gregory, that there could be, there will be peace and justice, in the world? And if so, is it through human behavior, or is it somehow some other way that peace will be in harmony, and peace, can be brought about or will be brought about?
What you yourself refer to as peace and justice, that particular scenario must be in accordance with the laws through which the world of matter came into existence, through which creation itself came into existence. So, if one has that scenario in mind, the context must be that of these same laws that guaranteed the existence of creation. And that will come into effect because, like has been discussed, that of reciprocal activity, it will then be that whoever has set things in motion, there will be subsequently a reciprocal activity appertaining to that being set in motion that will return to the initiator if that which has been initiated, the core of it, is of blessing, then subsequently it will receive blessing. Otherwise, you will find out that what he himself or herself has sown, when returned to it, the initiator may be uplifted or subsequently obliterated. That means the reciprocal activity will wipe him or her out. And being taken out means, therefore, that personality will no more become a disturbing effect in creation. And that in itself will guarantee peace. However, one should not expect that the returns which have been engendered through man's activities occur in one appearance here on earth. Because the possibility is there that he or she returns at different times. And depending on the maturity of that which has been initiated in creation, that maturity could be that the returns may affect the human personality here on earth or hereafter. Or again, when the human personality is back on earth, it may also affect it. So it has to be looked at in the entirety of when he or she started his or her journey, and not just a small space of time.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer. As they say, patience is a virtue because we know things can't change overnight. And when people have been, you could say, messing around for a long time, to change overnight is a bit too much to expect. So I can see that. And you said basically the laws of nature or movement or motion will take care of us if we continue to disrupt or go against this law. And I'm thinking, Gregory, now, as we already said, human beings do have free will, while the animals and plants do not. So they don't have this issue where they can go astray, but we can. So I'm wondering, Gregory, yes, I hear you that we have responsibilities, and I hear that we need to be aware of these laws of motion. But is there some other sort of tool to guide us or to help us sort of build something that is in line with these law of movement that doesn't harm, because what I'm saying, what you learn in the school or from parents doesn't seem to be sufficient to how can I say, keep us on the straight and narrow road of peaceful and just progress. One thing is for sure, life will continue and develop and go forward. But how can you say we should align with this law of movement? But we invent and create as human beings, and how can we know that what we are creating or inventing? Because that's what we mean by modern. We're always bringing something new to life. So what I'm in a way pointing to, how can we know that, oh, we found oil and then there's some pollution coming from that? If there's plastics, yes, it has a benefit, and we can make many products and so on quickly, and useful products. But then there's the destructiveness of it. It doesn't destroy. The plastics don't decompose. So what guidance can we have when we are developing, our, the way we choose to go? How can we what can we use to make things which are in harmony that with the law of movement, rather than produce something opposite?
In the discussion, we already mentioned that of reciprocal activity. The reciprocal activity already presents the possibility that which you yourself have placed in creation, the nature will return back to you. If the returns are beneficial, one will experience it. If the returns are not beneficial, one will still experience it and therefore ensure he or she makes amends. For in that reciprocal activity, and also in the attraction of homogeneity, once the personality has placed something in creation, has initiated something, the nature of it, the core of it, is what is as if tied to us and returns back to us. In the case of plants are not of the spirit, neither are animals of the spirit. Only the human personality has the feature of spirit, which is granted the free will to decide. Therefore, because you have that free will to decide, responsibility then comes in. For if there were no free will to decide, there will be no responsibility. And in experiencing that which has been initiated, the personality is able to make a decision to say, oh, this now I can say is not beneficial to me on the long run. It's only beneficial on a very short run. And therefore, we'll find other ways. So, the laws guarantee peace, guarantee harmony, but only through our activities, only through engagement are we able to come to this conclusion. For if we do not engage in our activities such that it will bring us that which is beneficial, then before too long we will experience it.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for your answer there. What you're pointing to is, you learn from what you do, lessons. You learn lesson after, from what actions you take. So, and you can see the constant activity of this law of motion, because you have to do something to get a result, and then from the result that you get, you see, oh, that was a good idea, or it was not a good idea. But I was wondering if there is a way you could know in advance before you build something or put an idea into action that it's going to work or not. So is there, because otherwise it looks like a trial and error, that you just try something and then it works or it doesn't work. Maybe that is how we are meant to do it correctly. Maybe we are developing this, so we are not perfect to start with. So we just have to, you could say, experiment. But then my worry is that if that is the case, like for example, the plastic and other things which are causing massive destruction. So we are finding the result too late. Or let's say when I say too late, a lot of disaster has happened before we change course. So is there a way before it gets too bad that we can, ideally we wouldn't invent something that was causing damage, but is there a way sort of we can get a bit of forewarning before it gets too bad, really?
Again and again, it is mentioned, man is of spirit. And in spirit, the way of communication of the spirit is through one's intuition. Because many a time, that intuitive perception is unheeded. Then you have the scenario in which the early warning that would have granted some inner certainty as to, oh, this is not the right way, that is ignored. And the human personality proceeds aimlessly, lack of intuition, or ignoring his or her intuition, to produce works which are not suffused with intuition, which are highly intellectual. A very simple example is that of stealing. If the person who steals were stolen from, he himself will reject it and say it is bad. Yet, deep within, he's convinced that stealing is not good, yet still goes ahead. And subsequently starts saying, oh, I didn't know. It is not rocket science. Excuses and excuses will not solve a problem. So what sort of early warning does the personality need when deep within him or her, he or she can already use its intuition to a large extent to perceive and weave away from those paths which are dangerous for it?
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer, and showing that we are spirit beings, and there's this spiritual ability or ability, I'll call intuition, where it needs to be applied, for us to act how we are, in quotes, designed to be. But if you're not aware of that, then of course you can see how we can go astray there. So we have to use our talents and abilities, and one of those talents is the intuition. Gregory, let's reflect on that. So we're talking about the modern way of living and the law of movement. So in this, you could say, the modern trend, are we, let's say, making progress in the use of our intuition? I mean, this is hard to judge, I'm saying, Gregory, because the population of the human beings on the earth is, multiplied. So the effect of what used to happen in the past, I mean, we just seem to be growing exponentially in terms of our ability. When I say ability, in what we produce and the effect that we can have. While in the olden times, maybe 200 years ago or so, the effect was much less, the population was less, the products or inventions that we had were less, whether they were good or bad, the damage would be less. So my question here now, Gregory, is the trend of the modern way, is that, how can I say, in the right direction in regards to the law of movement, that development and progress, or are we maybe heading to our destruction? Because if we judge by peace and justice in the world, we are, as I say, it's hard to compare because the scale of things has increased a lot. So maybe we will reach the destruction more likely. If we do go in that path, we're going to hit it quicker than in the past when we went astray. Then it wouldn't be hitting the world so so strongly. So a simple question, Gregory: what direction are we heading in this modern way? Is it downwards to destruction, or is it somehow we can actually progress upwards in our development?
The answer, which is simple enough, by their activities, they reveal how they fare, whether they are moving upwards, that means they are making progress, which progress is beneficial, not only in their deeds, also beneficial in their thoughts, and beneficial in their intuitions. If one considers that scenario, then there is progress which will bring peace, which will bring harmony, and also by the reciprocal activities which accrue from our decisions, one can easily determine the way we are going. So if the reciprocal activity brings disturbance, brings war, then one has to make the right judgment. So it's not rocket science. It's knowing fully well that as a human personality sows, so shall he or she reap. That which we have sown now, some of it, the fruits, if it's in deeds, we may experience almost immediately, or it may take quite some time before, and we keep reaping the fruits. If the fruits, which basically the reciprocal actions, which are based on the laws of motion, if these reciprocal activities are in harmony with these laws as to pull us upwards towards maturity, towards spiritual maturity, then it is beneficial. So the question must go back to the individual. How do you yourself stand in your activities?
Thanks a lot for that answer there, Gregory. Yes, as you put it, it's quite simple to see the results, because if you get things right, you get the, I'm going to say, happy results. And if you get it wrong, you get the, how can I say, not the destructive results. So it's clear to see. And of course, some people would be, in quotes, falling the right way and others not. So each one will get what they, in quotes, deserve according to the path they choose. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message, by Uprushing. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, then you can visit this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. The modern way of living and the law of movement. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's another way you can contact us, which is on the Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com website. Go to the homepage there, and if you scroll down, you'll see a chat box called Bless Chat. You can contact us through there, sending a message on Bless Chat. And as I mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show, which is we broadcast on Tuesday evenings, UK time, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is the modern way of living and the law of movement. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. Now, Gregory, I'm wondering, again, talking about this modern way of living and the law of movement. We talked about technology that, of course, is neutral and is helpful, and it's just the user, as human beings, how we use it, that's what the consequences come from that, good or bad. And then we've mentioned about we have our abilities as human beings, the earthly ones, which we know very well, the 5 senses. And of course, we can think, we can speak, and also as being a spiritual being, we also have the intuition. Now, all of these things are working in motion. But again, I guess they must work in harmony, aligning together. So, Gregory, when we, and we're, let's say, doing things almost through, not knowing up front, oh, this is going to work or not work if we invent something. It's through we do invent it and then we see the consequence of that. And that's how we grow and learn. So that makes sense. That's fine. Now, what I want to ask here, Gregory, should all these different spheres, meaning how we think, how we act, and how you could say, intuition senses things, should they align in, or can there be some conflict, somewhere disagreement with one or the other? And, the reason I say that, Gregory, sometimes when you want inventing something, you don't know what you're inventing, so and through this, how can I say, adventure of trying this and trying that, you discover, oh, that's going to work and that's not going to work. So what I'm basically asking, Gregory, does the intuition and our thoughts and our ideas and so on that we come up with, must it always align? And should we only move forward once it aligns, or develop the idea and take it into action, or can we just do just have some adventure? If adventure doesn't mean having fun, I mean adventure of discovery.
The question one must ask: who is the person? Is it the thoughts or the deeds or the intuition? So when you are saying we, it's as if there is a separate entity which is different from the thoughts, different from the intuition, and different from the deeds. That is not the case. The inner core, which grants the power, that is the spirit. That is the real essence. There is the physical body, which is only a tool for experiencing on earth. The inner core, which is of spirit, communicates through one's intuition to the physical body. That communication hits at the solar plexus and is connected with the back brain and subsequently the frontal brain, where thoughts are generated. Subsequently, through our thoughts, there is the further mechanical movement. All these thoughts are supposed to have an impact on the five senses. Then a final activity is carried out. The scenario just described is that of where the intuition resonates, that is in harmony, with one's thoughts, and one's thoughts resonate with one's deeds. In that particular scenario, it is the deeds are strengthened, because in that scenario, there is also reciprocal activity. The reciprocal activity is such that the returns of the deeds strikes the personality externally through one's five senses, strikes the frontal brain, which subsequently strikes the back brain, and via the solar plexus back to the spirit. In that complete cycle, it becomes an experience in the spirit. It uses it for its maturity, means it is clear. In that particular scenario, one can easily see that as the spirit matures in earthly affairs, it means there is that resonance, right? The spirit making a decision, the frontal brain being like the chief executive, and then the body carrying it out, and the reciprocal action activities return back to the spirit. That is the right scenario which leads to the maturity of the spirit based on the experiences it has now gathered. The spirit can already, because this is not the first time on earth, it must have gathered some other experiences in some other place, in the world of matter, so it is not new. There are these experiences which return to it, which are so sorrowful, so painful, like the departure of someone close. It is painful to the spirit, or the gross material pain has an impact on its mood externally, on the brain, on the back brain, and finally to the spirit. So that's one can see when things are in harmony. Consider the other scenario, where one's thoughts is not in harmony with one's deeds. That means you may have the scenario where externally you pretend to be a good person, but deep within your thoughts, that is not the case. Everything is calculative. One can already see where that one leads. Hypocrisy. The other scenario is when one's intuition is not strong enough to have an impact on one's thoughts, because the thoughts have been so strong up, that the spirit is lazy. That means it's unable to exert itself. That's the scenario of spiritual indolence. So you may have somebody who is exceptionally bright intellectually. It knows everything about the neighborhood. It knows how to wangle its way, how to weave its way in the neighborhood. But deep within, those virtues which the human personality, that means the spirit, is supposed to cultivate, is not there. It lacks the compassion. It lacks humility. It lacks due diligence spiritually. Once these things are not there, you find that the person may be very vigilant intellectually. That's, in that scenario, a very narrow one. It knows all the laws and the bylaws of the community. But these laws and the bylaws have been put in there intellectually to benefit a few, not for creation, not for the environment, like in the case of the plastic, which you described. They have been put in there just to protect a few. And the person is very, very intellectually strong and can defend it just like a lawyer. Now, it's not difficult to perceive where such a personality that has developed its own intellect so strongly and lacks that which is spiritual, albeit compassion. Because it will say, oh, this is what the law says intellectually, and therefore it must be obeyed. You find it very common in the cases of war, in the cases where even when children are involved, the laws are still carried out to punish a child. So it becomes very clear. Those laws which have been put in place intellectually and those laws which have been put in place spiritually, which have arisen due to spiritual maturity, these laws which have come through spiritual maturity, these laws will carry compassion. We have humility. We talk about selflessness and diligence, and also faithfulness. If you interpret these things in accordance with the homogeneity, that means homogeneous species, whereas the other ones, the intellectual laws, are being put there in a rigid form. That means they are not as fluid as the other ones. So one must differentiate that which is intellectual from that which is of spirit. In that case, only through experience will the individual know that which is beneficial on the short run and that which is beneficial on the long run. For that which is beneficial on the long run requires patience, requires perseverance, requires selflessness. The personality must decide.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer and really clear picture of how all our abilities and activities need to work together. And in a way, it's a very simple process. Somehow, maybe we get stuck in being one-sided, as this we can say, in focusing on one aspect only, the, let's say, intellectual, and not respecting or even reflecting that there can be another aspect, spiritual aspect, which needs to be working together with the intellectual aspect. And so what I'm pointing to, Gregory, there is a simplicity in this working of human beings' activity, which somehow we get diverted to only one-sided activity. And in this modern world, I use that technology as the example because you can do multitasks with this technology. And I pointed the risk of using the technology that you get absorbed or addicted to one of these. So they're all useful things, but the danger is to get stuck on, let's say, social media or whatever it is, whatever facilities that we have available to us, and just getting addicted or stuck on one or two of them, rather than living, you could say, a wholesome life. So, so that's what I want to ask you now, Gregory. In this modern world, with all this, how can I say, access to multiple avenues or whatever is out there, because now the world is, they say, is smaller because you can watch documentary, you can watch anything about different parts of the world. Before, let's say you didn't have TV and computer and so on. It was, you just did your job and you went home and family and so on. This was your I don't want to say the narrow, that was your limit of your activity. And now we have, let's say it was more simple then, but now with this, I don't want to use the word complex, but the life has become complex because of so much choices and invention. So it's not bad to have these new things. So how can we stay, if I can say, I'm going to use the word stay on the straight and narrow, meaning that how can we, keep the balance, keep things simple and clear. What can, is there some way we should have a starting point to, keep us on, like, say, I'm going to use the word the right path because I don't have any other word for it now.
The right path, for sometimes they call it the middle path. But the right path has already been described, in which there is an impression. That impression, one may call it the intuitive impression. That impression should have an impact on our thoughts, should have an impact on our deeds. That which we refer to as technology is only to assist our activities here on earth in gross material. Simple example, here we are in our discussions. We had our own personal intuition. We reflected on it. In the realization of our intuition, in the realization of our thoughts, we decided to make use of the technology available, albeit that of Skype, because we realize we can be in different places and reach as many people as possible. So, what you then have, in using it this way, we're being able to reach as many as we possibly can. Therefore, it is beneficial. For otherwise, it would have been that we go out making announcements, inviting people, that which we are able to do from within the comforts of our zone to reach people. If we didn't make use of this technology, it would have cost us so much effort and energy to accomplish a fraction of it. So you have this scenario in which the technology is being used to enhance that which we need to do, what we need to accomplish, and it becomes beneficial to all. For how else would we have done it? When it is raining in one place and another, should we have gone to use a loudspeaker and go from home to home to speak to people? How practicable could that be? It would take a whole earth life to get to as few people as possible. Whereas with the technology, we are able to reach as many. The same thing happens with our phones. The same thing happens with the technology of transport, in which we ourselves are able to leave our homes and visit another place. So there must be continuous improvement, which comes out only through further investigation of these laws of motion, which laws of motion already has placed that of reciprocal activity, which manifests here in gross matter, here on earth, which also manifests in our thoughts and in our intuition. The same thing happens when one considers that law of the attraction of homogeneity, which, when observed correctly, can manifest gross materially, also in our thoughts and also in our intuition. For those people who have decided to participate, albeit listening to the discussion, there must be that which brings them close, because they must be resonating with some questions which they want answers to. So you will find that the laws of nature, same thing as the laws of creation, are always present and help in the fulfillment of that impression which we wish to use in contacting others or in our activities. And therefore, that is helpful. That is of benefit.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. It may have been listeners, now that we've come to the end of the show, there's some repetition of some answers to some questions, but sometimes we need that repetition to enforce, that we learn and grow. And, it's really growing, it's implanted in us to, that we really are using these abilities that we have, which is specifically we've been talking about in the intuition here, because we haven't used it. And if we did use it properly and all the time, a lot of the troubles that we've experienced will not happen. In fact, we would have success and also peace and justice and love that we've been seeking, for all humanity. So thank you for listening, dear listeners, to this topic tonight, which is the modern way of living and the law of movement. Now, I would like to end with reading from the beginning of the Grail message, the foreword, which is titled For Your Guidance. The bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Aprushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. Just spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Thank you for listening to us, listeners. Hope you found the show, how can I say, informative and also opening your eyes. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing them a beautiful week.
Thanks for that. Same from me, listeners. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Good night. God bless.